We're going to be deep diving into the NFL, going to be taking a look at every single division and predict every single team's record.
I think they're one of my favorites to win the Super Bowl this year.
This team, that offense does not excite me. I think the offense continues to regress.
It's going to be Mahomes versus Russ for the MVP. And if you disagree, you're wrong. Sorry. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WNP podcast. I am your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how you doing?
Doing pretty swell. Michael, how are you?
Pretty good. We had a fun night of drinking last night, and I don't feel terrible today. So
that's the first time in like 3 weeks of recording that you haven't felt terrible.
Yeah, something like that. So hopefully that's going to make it a great show. Joining us for our final episode of our 4-part series where we cover every single NFL division is Alec King. Alec, how are you?
I am just dandy. How are you?
Doing great. And Alec, you were with us last night. How are you feeling?
Better than I thought I would, honestly.
Good. I'm glad. We were also supposed to bring along the Lions enthusiast, Graham Weaver. However, he decided to bail like 15 minutes before we started recording. So, great. Thanks, Graham. We appreciate that. But, hey, I guess it's just because he didn't want to get bullied, and he knew that's exactly what was coming for him. So, final episode, like I said, in our 4-part series. This is the big one, the finale. You got the Lions in it. You got the Bengals in it. AFC, NFC North. We're going to start with the AFC because we have more people on the podcast that are Lions fans and more people that listen to the podcast that are Lions fans in comparison to your host's number one love, the Cincinnati Bengals. So, AFC up first. Chase, why don't you start us off? Who's going to take the division?
I mean, does anybody have anybody other than the Baltimore Ravens winning this division? I would be shocked if they did. If they do, I would love to hear it. But the Baltimore Ravens, 13-3. Lamar Jackson's coming off an MVP season. He should still have a good year. I don't think he'll have the year quite they did last year, at least in terms of running. I'd expect him to throw the ball a little bit more. He threw the ball pretty low for a starting quarterback. So I expect the passes to go up. They're still going to have a good season. The defense is still solid. They got one of my favorite defensive players in this draft, Patrick Queen, who should be a day one impact starter. Kid's going to be a stud. This team they've got pretty much everything going for them. Rookie J.K. Dobbins or Mark Ingram. One of those two running backs are going to be productive. And, I mean, Mark Andrews has proven to be quickly one of the better tight ends in the league. And I've got a lot of faith, as you guys have heard in the fantasy episode, that Hollywood Brown could have a breakout type year. So if that happens, the Ravens aren't going to have any flaws.
I also have the Ravens at 13-3 at number one team in the division. I agree with everything Chase said. We actually kind of talked a little bit last night about how no one really thinks that Lamar is going to repeat the rushing that he had last year. But I personally think that even if he does lose those rushing yards, he's going to step it up in the passing game and get more passing yards instead, especially with the addition of Devin Duvernay, who I absolutely love. I thought that was a great pick for them. I eventually think that their number 2 receiver should be him after Hollywood Brown. Also, like Chase said, great running back room. I think a stellar defense. I think top 10 in the NFL for sure. Great coach. They have a bright future, so I think they're going to win this division for a few years down the road.
Well, it's a good thing you guys didn't pull the Colin Coward and say the Ravens were going to go 16-0.
Yeah, that's just absurd.
I am going to disagree, as I've got the Baltimore Ravens as well. I've got them at 12-4 though, so one last win, not a big deal. I've got them 4-2 in my division. How about you guys?
I also have them 4-2.
Let me take a peek. I forgot to write down the division. 6-0 in the division, actually.
6-0
Wow,
in the division.
I have 4-2.
Okay. So 4-2 for the Ravens in the division. I think that Lamar's production is going to drop just a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he is not top 5 voting in MVP this year. I think that they start to figure him out a little bit, not all the way, but we'll have to see. The Ravens had one of the better off seasons in the league, and they were already one of the better teams in the league. Obviously, a stupendous draft. One of the top two, I think, along the lines with another team we're going to talk about here in probably 20 minutes, half hour. And then they also brought in Calais Campbell for our fifth. So that's going to absolutely bolster that defensive line as well. So I think the Baltimore Ravens are a very good team. I am not as high as Colin Cowherd, giving them 16-0. That's absolutely crazy. But 12-4, a nice respectable record. They're going to finish first in the AFC North and first in the AFC in general.
Yeah, that's fair.
I actually have them second in the AFC in general.
Oh, okay. You got the Chiefs first?
I do have the Chiefs first.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right. Let's now talk about our number 2 team in this division. Chase, you are up.
So believe it or not, I have the Cincinnati Bengals second in the division at 8-8 and squeaking into the playoffs because of a weak AFC this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was kind of surprised. I thought I was going to have the Bengals at like a 6-win team or so, but do more than I expected and squeak it into that 7th playoff spot. I mean, like, this team, they've got all the right pieces except for the offensive line, really, at the end of the day. And, I mean, the linebacking core could still be improved, but they got some good values in the draft at that position. Obviously, the best college football season ever by a quarterback, maybe by a college football player ever, was led by Joe Burrow, who was the first overall pick of this team. He's going to come in. He's going to set all sorts of rookie records. He's definitely getting the rookie passing touchdown record. That's like, he's got too much talent at the receiver position, and he's too accurate not to get it unless he's hurt or something. Honestly, I would be shocked. So really, this team, they have so much going right for them, except for that offensive line, as I want to mention again. And I love Joe Burrow. I think he's probably one of the most, if not the most ready NFL quarterback I've seen in my lifetime. Maybe Andrew Luck tops that a little bit, but like, they have all the right tools to take that, crazy turnaround jump that a rookie quarterback can take you to the playoffs.
I actually have the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 2 in the division, at 9-7, and actually missing out on the playoffs.
Okay.
So only one playoff team from this division. I like the Steelers quite a bit. I think that they have definitely a top 5 defense. With that Minka Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt duo, that's just nuts. But their offense is a pretty big problem, in my opinion. I don't think Big Ben has it anymore, and obviously Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges are not the answer. The receiving core is lackluster outside of Juju. Their running back room is atrocious, in my opinion. I think they have one of the worst in the NFL. James Conner should not be starting on an NFL team right now. I think there's better options. The only thing that they have going for them on their offense is their offensive line, but it is getting old, so I think that they're in for a rough offensive rebuild, but maybe their defense can carry them the next few years with that young core.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great points made by both of you. However, I've got the Cleveland Browns at number 2. So all of us having different number 2s in this division. The Browns finished 9-7 and get the 6th spot in the playoffs. So the second to last wild card. This team has all of the talent in the world. If they can't get it done, then something big has to happen, whether that's a quarterback change with Baker Mayfield, which I think would be most likely at this point. They just bring in a new head coach, so if there's going to be a big change, I think it's got to be at the quarterback position. But Baker's got everything around him. He's got great tight ends. He's got 2 of them. He's got 2 great running backs. He's got 2 great wide receivers. They just added 2 great offensive tackles to keep them protected. They have so many weapons on this offense. He's got to get it done. And then you look at the defense. You got studs like Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon heading the defensive line. And then if you look on the back end, you've got Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward. You got a great overall team here. If they can't make the playoffs, that's a big problem in my mind. So I've got them at 9-7, 3-3 in the division, and making the playoffs.
They also added one of my favorite defensive backs in the draft, Grant Delpit, who should be day 1 starter.
They've also added a ton of players in free agency as well. They brought in Carl Joseph to help Grant Delpit at that secondary position, or that safety position. They'll be side by side as Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams are fronting that secondary. But, yeah, great team. If they can't make it, something's got to change.
Yep.
All right, Chase, number 3.
So I have the Cleveland Browns also going 8-8, but finishing 3rd, and just the way it works out happening, finish behind the Bengals. I'm pretty sure I have them and the Bengals splitting, so I don't know exactly how that gets determined according to the playoff predictor. But as Mike said, they've got the right tools. There's no reason they should fail, and I don't think 8-8 is necessarily failing, but it's also not succeeding at the same time. So I don't know what would happen in a scenario like this. I don't know if they'd move on from the quarterback or just try to tread one more year of water. I'm not really sure. I think Baker can be a solid quarterback. He can do enough to help you win. I have faith in his ability to be able to do that. He's not going to be someone who puts you over the top by any means, but if your team's already good enough, he's got enough to help you win a Super Bowl. The Browns, they're getting and finally heading towards the right direction of being one of those types of teams after being one of the worst teams for 20 years. So hopefully Baker can take the right steps. This could be a great fantasy offense, or if Baker flops again, it could be just another horrible nightmare like last year.
All right. Well, I actually have the Bengals third in the division with the same record that Chase has. I have them at 8-8, but they do miss out on the playoffs. I think Chase made a lot of good points about the Bengals' offense, a new bolstered defense. I think Joe Burrow has one of the best wide receiver cores that any rookie quarterback has had in any year that I can remember.
That any quarterback in general could ask for.
Honestly,
really.
True. It's great. But he did say the O-line will struggle a little bit, but I think it's going to be underrated. I think that they're going to have a sneaky solid year because they added a few pieces there. So I think the offensive line won't be as big of an issue as it has been in the past. I think Joe Mixon is a top 5 running back in the NFL. I think he's going to have a huge year, especially with a viable quarterback. So all the focus isn't on him. He's not getting stacked fronts, having 8 people up there trying to stop him. So 8-8, I think they're 1 to 2 years out of a playoff spot, but I don't think it's coming this year.
Well, I mean, I would love an 8-8 record. However, they are not getting an 8-8 record for me because the third place team in my division is the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6-10. They go 3-3 in the division. I am not high on the Steelers. I love their defense, and they've got a very good defense for many years because you mentioned Mika Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt. They also brought in Devin Bush last year, who looked phenomenal. You got that trio at every single level of the defense. That's going to be spectacular for many years. But yeah, back to that offensive concern. It's very concerning for me. I think James Conner is very underwhelming. Other than Juju, I don't like any of their weapons that they have. James Washington obviously hasn't shown anything. Deontay Johnson was just a rookie last year. You hope that he can step it up a little bit this year. Eric Ebron, I mean, you guys are Lions fans. I know you guys are not big fans of that guy.
Are you kidding me? I love him.
Big Ben, jeez. It's his time. We saw Phillip Rivers totally regress last year. I think it's going to be the same for Big Ben. It might even get worse. So, Steelers 6-10.
I definitely I understand the points that you're making, but the reason why I just want to kind of backtrack to why I have them at 9-7. I do think Big Ben is still even if he regresses, he's still going to do better than Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. And the fact that the Steelers had an 8-8 record last year with that insane defense, I think with Big Ben back, he will help them at least a little bit more than than the quarterbacks that they used last year. So that's why I think they'll be around the same record. So I understand why you guys are down on them, but I'm just kind of telling you my thinking why I think Big Ben will do all right in the offense, not like he has in the past. So I think that they're going to stay around the same as they were last year.
I feel you. Now, the one thing, though, is I agree Big Ben, even if he regresses, is going to be better than their backup quarterbacks last year. I also think the teams in their division, the teams they play most, are going to be better than last year. So
that's a fair point.
I have the Bengals taking a game off the Steelers this year.
I do too.
And I've got the Browns taking a game off the Steelers this year. And, of course, the Ravens taking a game off the Steelers. So they're 3-3 in my division. I just think that overall it's going to be tougher for them because the teams that they play the most have gotten better. Mm-hmm. So
that makes sense.
But, yeah, I mean, you make great points as well. Chase?
I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 5-11 and 1-5 in the division.
Wow.
So the reason I give them 2 wins, I give them 2 wins over the Ravens because that's understandable. And the reason I give them 2 wins over the Bengals, or the Bengals 2 wins over them, I should say, is because the Bengals are coming off of a bye. Even if it is an away game, it's not like a far travel. They're coming off of a bye. I'll take the young quarterback who's eager to prove so many people that are because there are doubters out there, and he knows there's doubters out there. I'll take him coming off of a fresh week of rest to go out there and dominate the Steelers. Their defense is obviously great, the Steelers, but they performed so well last year. Defenses that perform as well as they did, like the Patriots last year, they never do the same thing in the next year. They always regress.
I don't necessarily disagree. They most of the time do regress, but they didn't get Minkah Fitzpatrick until a few games into the year. So I think now that they have that solid core of Bush, Watt, and Minkah, and they've been able to like get acclimated together even further than they were last year, I think that'll push them to the next level and make them about the same, if not even better.
No, that's very possible, and I'm just going off of the historical trend, which has proven far more often to be right than wrong. So
That's fair.
Yeah, so it's just leaning that way. So at the point, the defense isn't going to struggle, but it's not going to be like superstar like it was last year, and it's going to be the point where the offense just can't get it done. Big Ben is going to struggle. Even if he is an improvement from those two QBs, he's still going to struggle. The running game is going to struggle this year. James Conner is going to prove finally that he just can't do it, and they're going to have to rebuild this whole offense in next year's draft. And I still do like Juju. I think Juju should have at least a 1,000-yard season, but he's the only receiver on that team that's going to do that.
I do think that you guys are both sleeping on Anthony McFarland. I think that if James Conner really does start off the season really horrible, Anthony McFarland will get some touches, and I think that he could end up being the starter there because I loved him in college. I loved them drafting him because I think that they were one of the most running back needy teams in the NFL. So I think if they give him touches, he could bring more to their offense because he's a different type of running back. They haven't had a running back like McFarland in a while because Lev Bell was like that patient, then burst through the hole kind of guy. McFarland's he's like shifty. He's not as patient. He's fast and like shifty. And then Connor's kind of more of a bruiser, not with a lot of speed. So I think that could help their offense, in my opinion, if they give him touches.
Yeah, it may. And from what it sounds like, they already kind of have a plan for him in the offense this year. Whether it's limited or not, they still sound like they're going to use him. So if he proves just to be the better back, then sure, that could change things a little bit. But I just think there's going to be a lot of running back talent, especially in the top part of the draft next year, that I really like. Where if they struggle, and they have those picks, you might as well. Going 5-11, they're one of the bottom teams in the league, so they probably have a top 5 or 6 pick the way my standings are. At that point, they're going to go quarterback, and then if they have an early second round pick, why not go running back if they're still there?
True,
right?
Yeah, for sure. And quickly, I will say on that category, the Steelers have 4 running backs right now that I think are all around the same level. I don't see McFarland, Snell, who's the guy that you love?
Jalen Samuels,
or James Conner. I don't see any of them as great starting backs or even good starting backs in the NFL in the future. McFarland could have an impact, but coming out of Maryland, being a 4th-round pick, I don't really see it. I don't really see a Kamara/Kareem Hunt type season/career out of him, but hey, it could happen for sure. But then quickly, before we get to Alex's 4th-place team, I do want to mention, because this hasn't been mentioned yet, we go through every single game for every single team. So although you may think of the Pittsburgh Steelers team as a 8-8, 9-7, 10-10 team, we went through every single game, and this is just who we picked. So some teams' records will be higher than what you would expect, maybe because they got an easier schedule. Some teams may have records that are lower than you expect because they have a little bit more difficult schedule. So just wanted to mention that quickly because I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a little bit better than 6-10, but I just think the schedule didn't really work out in their favor, and that's exactly why I have them at 6-10. So, Alec, let's get on to your last team. This is the Cleveland Browns. What's the record?
Yes, the record is 4-12, and
Ooh.
I have my reasoning. I was a Baker truther originally. I thought that he was going to be the guy, but last year it brought me down, and I do think Stefanski being there instead of Freddie Kitchens will help him. But I also think that their defense, they have some pieces. I love Denzel Ward. Greedy Williams, I think, should come to his own. I do like Grant Delpit, and then obviously Myles Garrett is an insane player. But my big reason is I took into account with this when I made these rankings that there most likely will not be fans in the stands at these games this year. And I feel like the Browns, some of their bigger names, feed off of attention and like the crowd, like people like Baker Mayfield, people like Odell Beckham, people like Greedy Williams, like some of their big names seem like they're more like cocky and they feed off like the crowd and stuff. So I think that someone like OBJ isn't going to perform as well because that's like I said, he feeds off the crowd and he feeds off of getting hyped up and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just, I know it sounds like a weird, it just sounds weird to say that, but I do think that that's going to have an effect on certain teams, and I think the Browns are going to be one of those teams that it affects quite a bit. I also, I don't like that they signed Hooper. I think that was a waste of cap space when there's way more important things that they needed, especially with already having Njoku and then Njoku wanting out and stuff. And I don't know. I don't think Baker's the future of the Cleveland Browns.
This year I would assume is going to show whether it is or not. Even though I have him 8-8, he'll have to show like crazy improvements from last year because he was so bad last year. So if you only see slight improvement or no improvement at all, then for sure he's going to get the boot. If they're picking at like 18, I don't think they're drafting a quarterback. You know what I mean?
They could, because there's 3 great quarterbacks in this draft, and I feel like one of them could fall down there. But
this year, would we say the 3 quarterbacks better than last year's 3? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And last year they went 1-5-6.
Fair point.
But I also think that maybe not the draft class isn't as deep, but the drop off from Herbert to Jordan Love. Jordan Love is actually not bad. So I think Brock Purdy is probably around the same level as Jordan Love.
I agree.
Yeah,
with
he could
in
be.
like
That's fair.
2-3 years, maybe Brock Purdy can start for an NFL team. But and there's some other players too, like the 2 kids out of Georgia, JT Daniels and forgetting the other kid's
Jamie
name.
Newman.
Jamie Newman.
I love Jamie Newman.
So,
JT Daniels isn't eligible this year though, is he?
Yeah, because he was a redshirt fresh. He's going to be his redshirt sophomore year.
Okay.
So if he wants to declare early, he can. But yeah, so with the Browns, Baker Mayfield, I see him in the exact same situation as Dak Prescott right now. Guys that were a little unsure on if they can lead a franchise to that Super Bowl, and they have all the talent in the world around them. So they just have to prove it this year. If Dak wants his big contract, he's got to prove it. If Baker wants to shut up all the haters and let the franchise know that he is here to stay, he is the guy, he's got to perform. So I see them in very similar positions, and both have to ball out if they want to stick around for much longer.
It's fair.
All right, let's now move on to MVP. Oh, wait, I didn't get my last place team. Last place team, Cincinnati Bengals, 6-10. They are 2-4 in the division. They take one off the Browns. They take one off the Steelers. I think. I don't know. Maybe I knock them down to 5-11, put them at 1-5 because they can never beat the Steelers. But yeah, I love the Bengals, obviously, and I think they had a great offseason, brought in great players like DJ Reader. They bring in Von Bell. They bring in Mackenzie Alexander and a bunch of other players to really help out that defense.
Has Trey Wayne signed yet?
Yeah.
Oh, he did finally. It only took him 9 months.
Yeah, he's signed. But he is injured right now. In camp, he got injured, and he's going to be out for quite some time, I think.
So it takes him 9 months to sign, then he practices for 7 seconds and gets hurt?
Yeah, basically.
That's a dub.
I mean, that's basically how all Bengals acquisitions go. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow gets hurt because we know the history of Bengals first-round picks getting injured. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not as big of a fan as Joe Burrow as these guys. I hope nothing but the best for him because, obviously, he's the quarterback of my team. But I see him as like a solid 14-10 range quarterback, 14-8 range quarterback. I just don't think he's got all the intangibles that could push a quarterback into that top 5. I mean, you look at Lamar Jackson. He's got insane athleticism. Patrick Mahomes got the big arm and very good athleticism. Russ Wilson, just the smartest player on the field. I think I know you can say Burrow is one of those smart players. I don't think he's in the same realm as Russell Wilson right now.
No, it's hard to tell until he plays in the NFL.
And then Russell Wilson, more athleticism than Burrow as well. So, I mean, the top 5 quarterbacks, I think you need those extra intangibles. I don't think Burrow has them, but I hope that he proves me wrong and just is an absolute stud. Offensive line is weak. Defense, even though they took 3 linebackers in the draft this year, and I think all of them could play a big role on this team, I still don't think it's enough. So 6-10, as the offense gets better, the defense gets better, but it's just not good enough.
Yep.
So
That's doable, but 8-8.
there it is. I mean, I hope they're 8-8. That'd be awesome. I think I had them like 9-7 last year, and that didn't really work out very well. But let's now talk about our MVP and Rookie of the Year candidates from this AFC North division. We'll start with MVP. This one, probably pretty hard for all of us, I'll be honest. Chase, who do you have?
I have Logan Wilson.
Nice.
Now, it's Lamar Jackson.
Obviously.
Why even say another candidate? Because it's Lamar Jackson. Why go in depth anymore? Because it's Lamar Jackson.
Well, now if Alec has a different candidate, you're just making him look bad. That's not nice, Chase.
Good. Cause if he says, oh, you know what? I think Big Ben's gonna do it. I'm gonna roundhouse his ass.
I'd love to see you try to roundhouse me. I would get a kick out of that. Boom. But anyway, I also have Lamar Jackson. There's just no contest here right now. That he's best player in the division, period.
Yeah, and, I'm going James Conner. No, I mean, I obviously try to look elsewhere, but Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, both great running. I feel like it's either going to be running back or quarterback or a player like Aaron Donald. I don't see it as any other possible position. So I was looking at running back, maybe Mixon, maybe Chubb, but no, it's not. And it's not going to be Baker. It's not going to be rookie Burrow, and it's not going to be old-ass Big Ben. So definitely going to give this one to Lamar Jackson as well.
Yep.
Now we'll talk about the old Rookie of the Year candidate. And there's a lot of good candidates in this class, honestly, because the Ravens had an amazing draft class. The Bengals, obviously, a great draft class. The Browns had kind of a sneaky draft class. I didn't like the Steelers draft class, but I don't like anything of the Steelers. So, Chase, we'll start with you. Your Rookie of the Year.
I mean, I'm not going against first overall pick Joe Burrow. Like, quarterbacks are the favorites to win these types of awards, and he was first overall pick coming off that crazy season. It's going to be hard for me to go against him. So, as I said in one of the last episodes, I picked one player from every team for offensive rookie, defensive rookie of the year, or didn't I pick whichever one I want to choose? Just to show, I wrote Joe Burrow's name 3 times in the offensive rookie of the year because, like, I just think there's that big of a gap between him and the next person.
Nice.
He's just everything is perfect for him to have this historical rookie season. And I'm not saying this is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But if there's a rookie quarterback who could ever go on and have an MVP type season, like, it's Joe Burrow with the weapons he has.
Could be, for sure. And the one thing with Joe Burrow is, obviously, we talk about the Bengals, how their offensive line is terrible. We saw time and time again in the college football season that he was able to escape the rush. He had that escapability and just made stupendous plays when he was getting rushed at the heaviest, you know?
He
was the best under pressure.
Yeah, like, watching him throw in these tight pockets, which he's going to have a lot of tight pockets, especially on the Bengals. Like, the throws that he makes are just stupid. And, like, most NFL quarterbacks don't make those throws already, and he's just doing it like it's walking for him. It's just insane. So I think he's going to be just, like, it's going to be, like, some growing pains because it still is the Bengals offensive line that is so bad. He's still going to get hit more than he did at LSU, but he's going to adapt way better than most rookie quarterbacks ever do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Alec, let's talk about your Rookie of the Year.
I wanted to go a little off kilter here. Didn't want to pick the obvious with Joe Burrow, so I went Logan Wilson of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think if he starts day one, he could be a triple-digit tackle type of player.
That's strictly out of necessity, though.
Well,
oh, it's not because of skill.
Well, I mean, it's because of skill, but at the same point, when, like, guys have that many tackles, it's usually because the rest of the defense is missing their tackles.
Well, I don't know if I've talked about it in a past podcast, but I know Mike knows how much I love Logan Wilson. I thought that was a great pick for them. I think he is going to end up being a Pro Bowl linebacker, which might be premature. You know, he wasn't at a big school in college, but he has that mindset. I think he definitely has the skill. He has the body type. I'm really excited to see him on that defense, especially with how brutal the Bengals linebackers have been in recent years. I think that he is going to be a stud, and I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one nice thing with the Bengals this year, they addressed that linebacker position heavily, of course. Logan Wilson being the first one that they drafted. And the one thing that I loved is every guy they got, Logan Wilson, Akeem Davis-Gaither, and Marcus Bailey, they all have extreme athleticism for the linebacker position. And you see that out of amazing linebackers like Roquan Smith. But the one thing, and I'm not saying that these guys are up to the level of Roquan Smith, but I will say, even though they have that extreme athleticism like Roquan, they do not forfeit the size like the Bears did with Roquan. Roquan only standing around 5'11". Logan Wilson is 6'2". Akeem Davis-Gaither, I believe, is 6'1". And Marcus Bailey's around that 6'2", 6'3" range. All of them very athletic. So I really hope that they can solidify that linebacking core with those three guys. My first two names, Burrow, Logan Wilson. So they're both off.
You're such a homer.
Wow.
So
I picked Logan Wilson because I didn't think you would.
So
That's
I
why
went
there.
I went Grant Delpit. Not a homer this time.
Great
you
choice.
guys are the homer for me.
That
Grant
was my
Delpit
third.
was my second
that was
pick.
my third.
Okay.
So we all had two of the same.
Yep.
Logan Wilson was my third total defensive, so probably like my fifth guy.
Gotcha.
Imagine having a
So
thick skull.
Grant Delpit. I thought he was the best safety coming out of this draft class,
Same.
and he
Still do.
was
Antoine Winfield.
very good at LSU.
Antoine Winfield.
Yeah, he likes
the
Antoine
best.
Winfield.
Yeah. If Delpit wasn't playing literally crippled all year, he would have still been the first safety taken. He was a top 5 pick going into the season.
Yeah,
Safety.
I love Grant Delpit. He's really got everything you want to see out of a prototype safety, and he's really not going to have to be relied on that much, which is why I think he could shine just even more than what people may think. Because, like we said before, Greedy Williams, Denzel Ward, they bring in Carl Joseph to be on that other safety side. So, going to have a lot of room to really grow and just be the best player he possibly can be. So, Grant Delpit was my third behind Burrow and Logan Wilson. I'm kind of surprised we didn't pick any Ravens players because they've got a lot of great rookies.
I had Patrick Queen on my list.
Patrick Queen, Justin Matabuke in the trenches, J.K. Dobbins. Amazing draft class. Definitely a top 2 draft class with another team that we're going to be talking about. And, hey, they wear purple as well. So, yeah, a little surprised there, but at the same time, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yep.
All right, let's now move on to the NFC North. I know you guys are excited for it. I'll be honest, I was more excited for it when I thought Graham was coming.
I was too.
Yep,
I may be a Lions fan, but I love triggering that kid
yeah,
with stuff
getting
with the
him
Lions.
getting him angry is one of the best things ever, honestly.
And he's not even going to listen to this, so he's not even going to know that we're calling him out right now.
I know,
True.
right? That's the best part. But yeah, we'll start off with Alec this time while we're going through the NFC. Alec, who is your first place team in the NFC North?
My first place team is the Minnesota Vikings.
It's not the Lions?
No, of
Graham's
course
gonna kill
not.
you.
Minnesota Vikings at 10-6.
Okay, very nice.
4-2 in the division. This is the team that Mike was referring to that had one of the most stellar draft classes out of this draft. It's absolutely nuts. I think Justin Jefferson is going to have a day one impact. Just immediately take that Stephon Diggs role.
You know what's crazy about Justin Jefferson?
No, we're not going to talk about
I
it
got him
right
in
now.
the 15th round.
You also took Miles Sanders in the 3rd.
In a 10 team. So that is to be pointed out. But
Yeah, we did a fantasy draft last night. Chase's team is now ranked what?
7th. After picking up
7th.
defense.
Nice. I don't know if you saw Alec, but because you changed your name, you now jump Tyler to number 2. I'm not sure how that works.
Really?
wow.
I'm not sure how that
Okay.
works. And because I changed my name, I went from 5 to 6. So, really not sure how that works. But, yeah, we had a lot of fun last night. Obviously, a fantasy draft plus some drinking. A lot of fun. But continue. Sorry.
The one big question mark is, in my opinion, Kirk Cousins. But I don't even think that's that big of a question mark. I think he's still a viable NFL starter. He proved that he could perform last year. I think Mike Zimmer is a great coach, especially for a lot of these new young guys that are gonna that he wants to have immediate impacts. I think he's gonna be a good mentor to them. And I don't know, this team really does not have very many weaknesses that I can think of, aside from maybe corner, but that's still, like, they addressed that.
Yeah.
10-6, win the division.
And you know what's
Like-
crazy is Mike Zimmer was the defensive coordinator for the Marvin Lewis-led Bengals, and we decided, you know what, we're going to let Mike Zimmer go, and we'll keep Marvin Lewis for another 7 years.
Sucks.
So
Sucks.
Yeah, that was tough. It still hurts me in the heart a little bit. But Chase, your first place team, the Chicago. Oh
No. No, also the Minnesota Vikings, but at 12-4, going 4-2 in the division as well. This team.
Did you say 2-4 in the division?
Did I?
I don't know.
I heard you say
4-2,
2-4.
I think.
Okay, well, I meant to say 4-2. I have no idea what I said now. But 12-4, 4-2 in the division. This team, I like them probably a little more than Alec does. I'm a huge believer in this offense. I think this offense is going to have a tremendous year because Dalvin Cook, as long as he stays healthy, it's obviously the question. But he did it last year. He stayed healthy. If he stays healthy, you just don't know what to expect because they can throw the ball to two great receivers, two very solid tight ends, if not above solid tight ends, and then also have Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison and even Mike Boone, who, if you need to use him, he can be effective for you as a running back. This team has all the tools on offense, plus that defense. Obviously the defensive backs are where the struggles are, but they kind of did their best to improve that in the offseason. I think that they're made the right type of moves. This team should pretty easily win this division. I'd be shocked if anything else happens.
Yeah, for sure. And unlike former Minnesota kicker Blair Walsh, I'm gonna, kick my record for the Minnesota Vikings right down the middle between you two at 11-5. Little flack thrown over at the Minnesota Vikings, but
Your old favorite team.
my old favorite team. They got rid of Randy Moss, and that really hurt my feelings as a child.
Then you cried and went on Madden and chose the Bengals.
Hey, I was 8. What am I supposed to do? 11-5 for the Minnesota Vikings. I have them at 3-3 in the division, a little bit lesser. But I think the Bears, even though they might not be the best team when it comes to my record, I think they are going to be a competitive team this year. Whether that amounts to 7 wins, 12 wins, or 1 win, we'll find out. But Minnesota Vikings, 11-5, first in the division. You said that, or you were saying that Kirk Cousins is kind of an issue, but not really anymore. I would agree with the not really anymore. He got his new contract. He beat Drew Brees in the playoffs last year. So I think really now the pressure's off his back and he can play to his fullest. Yeah. My question is the wide receiving group. Adam Thielen, coming off of a down year, he had to deal with some injuries, but you expect him to be back. Justin Jefferson, I love him. I think he's going to be great. However, where are you looking after those two?
Honestly, B.C. Johnson's not like a great number 3, but he's definitely not a bad number 3 either.
I think instead of looking at the third wide receiver, you got to look at their tight ends because I think they have one of the better tight end duos in the NFL with Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith because Kyle Rudolph is that insane red zone threat. And then Irv Smith can do some damage like in the middle of the field. So I love them. And
last year as a rookie tight end, Irv Smith also did run out of the slot. So he's going to continue to do that too every once in a while. So he's still going to be used as a receiving type tight end too, like a receiver/tight end. Yeah, and I honestly don't think it's that big of a worry either because I think it's going to be a more run-heavy offense, obviously with Dalvin Cook, one of the best in the league. With that tight end point, one of the better duos. I'd say probably top 5. Obviously, you got to put the Browns in front of them with Hooper and Njoku. You got to put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in there, and then of course the Bengals with Drew Sample and Sujay Uzoma. Minnesota Vikings, a really good all-around team. I was kind of confused at first when they started letting go some of their vets earlier on in the offseason, but Xavier Rhodes had a pretty poor year. And then who was the other guy? Everson Griffin? Yep. He, just signed with the Cowboys. Yeah, little strange there, but Danielle Hunter's an absolute monster. So Minnesota Vikings, 11-5. Let's go to our number 2 team, Alec.
I just want to point out.
He's doing it already. It's coming already, dude.
This is for Graham. I have the Green Bay Packers
at
9-7 and making it into the playoffs with the 6th seed. Ooh. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, obviously.
6th seed at 9-7? Wow.
What?
The 6th seed at 9-7?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, is regressing a little bit, but he still is a talented quarterback. Still, I think, top 10 in the league, no matter how much Graham wants to say he's not. They added another running back to an already solid running back room with A.J. Dillon there with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. Devontae Adams, top 3 receiver in the NFL. On the defensive side of the ball, they have one of the best defensive tackles in the league, in my opinion, with Kenny Clark, who just signed a new deal. Jari Alexander, I think, is a top 10 corner in the league. I don't know. Their defense was just great last year. I think it's going to keep being great, and I think Aaron Rodgers still has enough gas left in the tank to take his team to the playoffs. On the offensive side of the ball, even though outside of Devontae Adams, they really don't have very many receiving options. But I think, honestly, they might rely more on the run game than we've pretty much ever seen them since Aaron Rodgers has been there. But yeah, I still think they're going to be a playoff team and finish second in the division.
Chase. Oh, Chase is doing it already.
I am doing it.
Oh,
I
no.
have the Detroit Lions at 10-6 and missing the playoffs because of a stacked NFC this year. I think the NFC is going to be great and the AFC is going to struggle this year. So, 10-6, like, they've got some pretty easy matchups throughout the year, honestly. Like, a team like the Cardinals, I'm not worried about. They're going to split their division, obviously. They're playing the Washington football team. Woo, spooky. Playing the Carolina Panthers. Woo, spooky. They've got some pretty easy matchups, and going 3-3 in the division, plus the other 3 losses come to Atlanta, Tennessee, and New Orleans. So I think that's very realistic. This is finally the year that the Detroit Lions offense is going to be something you actually guess about. I really like the running back room now. Now with DeAndre Swift and Kerryon being kind of a 1A, 1B type situation, it's going to cause a little more concern. The passing game should, as long as Stafford's healthy, should try to hopefully piggyback off what they were doing last year. And it's going to cause a lot of concern, or not concern, what's the word for it? Just a lot of questions for whatever defense is trying to defend against them. But I do not like the Lions defense. They've got some solid pieces, but as a whole, it just does not come together. It has not really come together yet with Patricia there. I don't have any faith in that. If the defense was better, this is a team I could, with the offensive roster, if the defense had another piece or two, I could see possibly being an 11, 12-win team making the playoffs. But 10-6 is me being a little optimistic, and they're still missing playoffs anyway.
I don't think the Lions will ever have double-digit wins under Matt Patricia. I think he needs to be gone, period. That's all I have to say.
Okay, they never got it with what's-his-nuts either.
They had double-digit win seasons with Jim Caldwell and playoff appearances.
One double-win season, maybe?
No, they had 12 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins. They had at least. I'm pretty sure they had at least 3 with Caldwell.
They have not made the playoffs 3 times with Jim Caldwell. They made the playoffs 3 times in my life.
It doesn't matter. When they had 10 wins, they didn't make the playoffs.
Let's go look.
Oh, boy. Well, while you guys are looking, I'm going to chime in here. Interesting having them beat the Bucks when it's December, Brady. Brady kind of starts to shine later on in the season.
Oh, for the Patriots, you mean?
Whatever. I mean, you can think what you want. I don't see the Lions being there. I'll talk
Jim
about
Caldwell
it
had
in a
one
little bit.
double-digit win season, 11-5, then 7-9, 9-7, 9-7.
Okay. How many playoff appearances, though? How many winning seasons, though?
3.
Okay. Well, and how many years? That was 4 or 5?
4 years. 9-7 is not considered a good winning season for me.
3 winning seasons in 4 years, and Chase is complaining. How many?
9-7.
That's a winning
It's a winning season.
It's a garbage winning season.
It's a winning season.
It doesn't make playoffs.
In his worst year,
7-9.
yeah, Jim Caldwell had almost the same amount of wins that Patricia has in 2 years.
That's fine. Patricia's building a whole new scheme.
He's not building anything except for a losing team.
We'll see this year. That's no point in me arguing it. We'll see this year.
Ooh, I like it.
I had to trigger someone since Graham was.
It's not triggering me. It's just there's no point of arguing it because it's just gonna keep running around the same points and never coming to a conclusion. So we'll just see this year and then we can reevaluate in the offseason. If I'm wrong, I have no problem being wrong. I have no problem with Patricia being fired because I want an offensive coach anyway, but I still have faith in Patricia.
All right, let's now move on to my second place team. That would be the Green Bay Packers as well. They are 10-6 and 3-3 in the division, and they are missing the playoffs. They are the 8th team. They just barely miss out. The other 6 teams outside of the Minnesota Vikings, we talked about them before, but the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Seattle Seahawks. So the Packers just barely missing out, but they do. I think the Packers are a very solid team. I do have questions about their offense with, no one but Devontae. Well, Reggie Begelton, of course, coming from the CFL. But, very, very tough offense for Aaron Rodgers to control as he doesn't really have any receivers. I mean, they could have had like a T. Higgins or a Denzel Mims, but they decided to go Jordan Love instead. Very interesting, I'll be honest. But that defense, very good. It was top 5 in the league last year. So expect that to maybe not continue at that rate, but I do expect them to still be a top 10 defense in the league. So good team, 10-6, just barely missed the playoffs. Unfortunate for them, but honestly, I don't really care. I'm not a Packers fan.
Yeah.
All right, Alec.
Well, I may have just been trashing the Lions and Matt Patricia.
He has been 9-7 or something.
I do have them at 9-7, but
1 win difference.
I'm going to be honest. I did not expect this at all. When I went through the games and I did their schedules, I would have guessed probably 6-7 wins at most. So I don't know how I got to 9-7. Honestly, I can't go back and look at that moment. But I don't know how I got there. But they actually do squeak into the playoffs at the 7th seed.
Wow. You got 3
So he was trashing
3.
me for going 10-6 missing playoffs and has him 9-7 making playoffs.
I didn't trash you. I trashed Matt Patricia. I was telling you. I think that I don't think this record reflects how I actually feel about the Lions. This is just me picking matchups.
Yeah, and they have some very easy wins this year.
That is a good point. But the thing is like, let's just say they lose one of those easy wins, and then they have all their hard schedules. That automatically that's just it for them.
Well, the one thing, too, is Chase was talking about the easy schedule and then brushed off the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals got a lot better this year, and you guys tied them last year.
Yeah, that was bad. That was a bad memory.
And I don't necessarily put that on the talent of the Lions. I put that more on the coaching, which is why...
It was great first 3 quarter coaching, horrible fourth and overtime coaching.
Played prevent for the whole fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You don't...
And while we're talking about the Lions, I'll just say my record because they're my third-place team. We can get back to your third-place team after. They're my third-place team. I have them at 7-9, 3-3 in the division. Because like I said, I think the Bears are going to be competitive. I don't think they're an amazing team, obviously, if they're lower than a 7-9 team. But I think they're going to be one of those teams that are just annoying, and you have to take them serious at all times. They do have some cupcakes, like the Jaguars, like the football team, which is hilarious looking at the schedule right now, just seeing verse football team. Hopefully they come up with a name before the season starts.
Doesn't sound like it, though.
Yeah, it's... I think it's a tougher schedule than you guys are making it out to be because I think the Vikings and the Packers are very good. I was just talking about how the Bears are going to be a sneaky competitive team that you always have to take serious. I like the Titans. I like the Buccaneers. I like the Falcons. I like the Saints. And then the Cardinals and the Colts are 2 teams that I look at and even the Texans you could throw in there, where it could go either way for me because both teams have some question marks. Both teams have some great players as well. So they just go 7-9 for me. And when I'm looking at the offensive weapons on this team, they aren't there. Kenny Golladay is great. He is great. I think DeAndre Swift is great. However, I don't think he's great this year because I think that Patricia or whoever's running the offense is going to be too into the 2-back scenario with Kerryon Johnson. I don't think Marvin Jones is great. I don't think TJ Hawkinson is great. Yeah, he could be. And then outside of that, I don't really... Danny Amendola, I'm not a big fan of. Couple other... The offense isn't there enough for me. And then when I look at the defense as well, this team reminds me of the AFC South. We were talking about it in last week's episode. How... them as a whole, they have good players, but they don't have any of those amazing players. I think outside of Stafford and Kenny Golladay, the Lions are kind of lacking in that star power.
And I don't think Marvin Jones is a star, but you saying you don't think Marvin Jones is that great? He's definitely well above average for a receiver in the NFL. The numbers just flat out don't lie.
Well, when he gets all of the targets in the red zone, he's top 5 in the last 6 years for red zone targets.
Because he gets open and catches them.
One thing...
Yeah, which is fine, but
which is
he's not...
That's a skill,
I would take
skill
Tyler
set to
Boyd
have.
as my number 2 over Marvin Jones.
I would
take
also take Tyler
I
Boyd
would-
over Marvin Jones.
That's two different types of receivers, though, is my issue.
That's fair. That's fair because
Because
Boyd's a
Boyd's
slot.
Boyd's a
play slot?
slot. No,
Jones is an
No,
outside.
Amendola's our slot guy.
Yeah, but one thing I do
So
want
that's
to
where
point
my
out.
difference is.
I saw a stat the other day saying that Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones are both top 5 for for contested catches in the NFL in the last, I think, 3 seasons. And I don't necessarily think that speaks to them all that much. I think that just shows like Stafford isn't as good as we think he is.
No,
You
I
gotta
think
be
that
able-
Stafford
you gotta be
believes in
able
his
to-
receivers.
You say that, but I think that's just muscle memory for him from having Calvin. He wants to throw it. He wants to throw it up to his receiver, no matter if it's contested or not, because he wants them to catch. He thinks that they can catch it because it's muscle memory with someone like Calvin. Like I love Matthew Stafford. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, but that is my big issue with him. I think he throws up a lot of 50-50 balls that are not even necessarily 50-50, maybe even 40-60, 30-70, like that. Don't give the receivers the best chance to catch the ball. That when he can make easier throws. But he's just trying to flash too much, and I don't like that.
I heavily disagree.
And for me, I think for the Lions to make the playoffs and get that 10-6 type record, Matthew Stafford has to have an MVP like season because I don't think this defense is good enough.
No, I don't think it's either.
So, and look, he's had seasons where it's like, man, he could be an MVP.
It's looking like it last year until he died.
Exactly, but that's the thing is he either has an injury or his last couple of games he kind of slows down a bit. Something happens to the point where he just can't get that MVP recognition, and I don't think that's just an oddity. I think that's just who he is. I think he's a great quarterback, a great talent. However, there's something about him where when it comes to, and he's great, fourth quarter comebacks, amazing. However, when you look at the most important games, the games that are going to push them into the playoffs, it seems like, he just can't get enough done, which that could be an issue with the defense too. Like you guys are probably going to mention and has been mentioned on the podcast a couple times. He can't do everything, but if he is that truly elite MVP quarterback that can push this team to a 10-6 record and a playoff team, then he's got to be able to do that. And I just don't see that in him.
See, I get wanting to put that on Stafford a bit, and I semi-agree, but at the same time, his whole career, he's never really had the opportunity to rely on the run game. You don't have to guess what the offense is doing. The offense is throwing the ball 15-plus yards down the field on every throw, because that's just what they have to do. They're always behind because the defense struggles, or if the defense is doing really good, then the offense struggles every couple of years. But, Stafford has never had the opportunity to just, let the defense gas on him. He's always had to force the ball. They're always down in the fourth because the defense doesn't do the right things in the first 3, regardless of who the coach is, whether it's Patricia, whether it's Caldwell, whether it's Jim Schwartz. It's just been the same thing. They've never been able to have a guessing type of offense, and you don't win like that unless you have a Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, or even Aaron Rodgers at the prime of his game. They're at the top of his game. As much as I love Stafford, he's not those 3 quarterbacks.
I do have one kind of issue with you, with that point that you're making. I feel like there's always an excuse for why Stafford doesn't do well. Because it used to be our defense is garbage. But then we had a top 5 defense. Stafford still couldn't take us to the next level.
That was bad all year for the offense.
Then we had Reggie Bush, who was 1,000-yard rusher for us.
The first year,
Yeah, and did well. And then, so that's when they blamed it on the defense. And then when they lose the running game, the defense does well, they blame it on the running game. There's always another excuse. When is it his fault? Is it ever going to be his fault, or is it always someone else's?
There's only a few quarterbacks that can really carry a team, to that level. And, Stafford is not one of those guys. There's probably 3 or 4 of those guys in the league that can do that at any given time, if that. And he was always on the cusp of being that type of quarterback, but just was never there. My biggest flaw personally with Stafford is he doesn't know how to control his power on his throws, because he'll overthrow, he'll break Calvin Johnson's fingers and force him to retire 6 years too early. That's always been his problem. It makes it so some of these passes are hard to catch and they do get dropped. If that was something that he could control a little bit more, then that would put him into that conversation, in my opinion, to be one of those types of quarterback, because it gives him more touch, gives him a little bit more of a precise throw, and that's always been my biggest issue with Stafford. So if that was something that he was able to control at some point, it's too late in his career to be able to learn to do that now. Then I think we would have seen some different Lions teams in the past, just a couple extra wins maybe in a given season or two, but it's too late for that.
And like I said, I agree that he does know how to control his power, but also he he doesn't throw smart sometimes. Like he tries to force balls like all the time, and that's the big issue that I have.
I think
So-
that comes in with his power.
Yeah,
If he
yeah.
does have that velocity on that ball, he can squeeze it through those tight windows, which
Yeah.
sometimes is not the smartest to do.
And he's a guy who, a guy who really trusts his receivers. Like that's a quarterback that's going to throw those balls more often, and he really trusts his receivers. And I mean, I give all the trust in the world to Kenny Galladay. I don't give all the trust in the world to Marvin Jones, but I give more than at least I know Mike does. So like I get it, especially for like forcing Galladay in those situations. I don't have an issue with it, but. As Alec did say, I don't think it's just complete muscle memory. Like I disagree at that point, but he was used to having Calvin be able to just catch everything that was ever thrown within a 100-mile radius of him, and Kenny Galladay does that at a much lower level, but can still do it. So Stafford still feels comfortable throwing those balls.
And I wanted to make one point real quick and ask you guys one question before we move on to Chase's number 3 team, and then we finish it off with our 4 teams. So one point I wanted to make is Chase said probably about 2 minutes ago that there's only 3 or 4 quarterbacks that you think could really put the team on their back and take them to that next level. I was saying that back in the quarterback rankings thing we were talking about. I said that I think if you put Russell Wilson or Drew Brees in that situation, that they could carry the Lions to a playoff scenario. I think you and John, I could be wrong. I think you and John Dowell, though, disagreed with me, but
I don't think I disagreed.
Maybe it was John Dowell then, and I was just like, I don't know. Stafford has these weird moments when it comes to that clutch ability where Drew Brees and Russell Wilson have them, and that's the one thing that is so hard to find is that elite quarterback, and that's the one thing why I wanted the Bengals to wait a year and get Trevor Lawrence, because I think Trevor Lawrence can get to that. I don't know if Joe Burrow can. So, like, quarterback is the most important position, obviously, and this is just tough because Stafford, extremely talented. However, he just can't really take that next jump to be that MVP caliber quarterback. But my quick question for you guys is on the running game, what's the problem with this running game? Because we see time and time again that the Lions are not able to find that 1,000-yard rusher. Now, they did with Kerryon, what was it, 2 years ago or last year or
he
something?
He didn't have 1,000 yards, but
he didn't?
He had a 100-yard game, which was the big
100-yard
thing.
game.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're seeing that time and time again. They just can't get it done. So what's the problem? Is it all of the running backs you guys are bringing in? If that's the case, then you got to find someone new in the scouting department when it comes to running back. Or is it the overall thought of the running game, the overall scheme of the running game, like how the Big Ten is a very run-heavy league? Are the Lions just opposite? They're just not really interested in the running game? What is it?
I think that there's 2 points. That, like, in my opinion, the first one is coaching. Like when we had Jim Caldwell, he came from the Colts where they had Peyton Manning. They didn't need to run the ball, so his philosophy was mainly pass it. So getting that solid running back to have along with their passing game was not a priority for him because he wanted to focus on the passing game. So and then Patricia's here, and like with his coordinators, like when he had Cooter, like Jim Bob Cooter was there. Jim Bob Cooter loved all these stupid little screen stuff and like using and throwing the ball, like all these short little passes and stuff. And I do think that Bevel last year, I was personally really surprised because Bevel was the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks the year that they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And that was like when they had Marshawn Lynch, and he loved run plays. He loved calling run plays with Lynch. So I was expecting more of a run-heavy team for us with Bevel as the offensive coordinator, but it wasn't. They're wanting to focus on Stafford, which I don't necessarily like. But I mean, this last season, I understand because Kerryon was not healthy. If Kerryon was healthier, I feel like they may have relied on the run game more. But even when he was healthy, he was so inefficient. So I'm super excited to see DeAndre Swift here, and I think he'll end up being our eventual workhorse. And I think Bevel's going to be able to draw up some great run plays to use Swift for in the future.
So, I agree that schemes are part of the issue, but in my opinion, the biggest issue was getting a guy with talent and then his career just being washed away because of injuries. A guy like Javad Best, a guy like Amir Abdullah, a guy like Kerryon Johnson is seeing that happen to him. There's been a lot of these guys, even Reggie Bush, and he's here started getting hurt and started underperforming. It's just these running backs since that 1,000-yard Reggie Bush season have continually gotten hurt where they haven't had the opportunity to hit 1,000 yards. And we just keep getting these guys that just can't stay healthy. And that's really like the biggest issue. I think if there's a guy who, there's been the guys who have had enough talent, and if they would stay healthy, they would just hit 1,000 yards just based on the talent. But even if the scheme is like focusing on the passing game, because eventually at a point, if you have that balance between the running and passing game, you're going to win games a little more where you're going to have to run the ball so you don't throw the ball and force turnovers. So you're just bound to get it at some point. And the Lions they haven't had these healthy running backs, so they can't do that. So hopefully, if the team is deployed right this year, neither Swift or Kerryon Johnson will be 1,000-yard rushers, but they're going to combine for. I at least have faith that they can combine for more rushing yards than the running game has had in probably the last 5 years or so.
Yeah,
Won't be that hard.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are going to need it if you want to get to that 9-7 and 10-6 record. But let's now move on to Chase's third place team, and then we can get into our last place teams.
So my third place team, Green Bay Packers at 8-8. I have this like top three of the NFC North going 500 or better, being pretty close. But the Packers, I do think they are trending downward. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, so who knows? He could find his game again, but he has struggled the last couple of years. He's shown some good plays, shown some real bad things too. There's a reason they drafted Jordan Love. There's conflict between the coach and the quarterback there. So Aaron Rodgers, I think, is only a matter of time. Not really his fault either, but only a matter of time until he's phased out. I feel like he's more likely to end up on a different team within the next 2 years than finish out his career with the Packers. Like you spend a first round pick on a quarterback, you want to play him at some point. You're not going to draft him, just not use him.
Maybe we see him go to Tampa Bay after Tom Brady leaves.
Maybe. I wouldn't be that far fetched, honestly.
Bruce Arians is like a magnet for like big names. I swear.
It'd be crazy.
People love him.
Like if Tampa just for like the next.
Just like pick up those
decade.
old,
Yes.
and then like let's say Drew Brees wants to play one more year, and the Saints don't want to give him a contract extension. He'll go 1 year there.
Yeah, like next 10
awesome.
years, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, then you bring in a Stafford when you like if the Lions ever are ready to move on.
grab
Like a Russ at the
Wilson.
tail end of his
just
career.
a rotation.
See, that would be fun. I'd be all for that.
Yeah, for sure.
But this Packers team, they're starting to trend towards that need to rebuild. I think this year they're going to show a lot of the signs. It's like, it's kind of falling apart. The running game is going to heavily regress. It's kind of impossible for it not to, especially in the touchdown department. Like Aaron Jones having 18 rushing touchdowns last year.
I hope not.
Going
Because
for
I just
22
drafted
this
him last
year.
night.
I drafted him in your dynasty league a couple of weeks ago.
As much as I like Aaron Jones' talent, I think he has a lot of talent. That's just not sustainable. Like,
Yeah.
Even though he's improved every single year, so at that rate, he can improve again. So
24
yards,
next
24
year?
touchdowns.
Let's go.
I think that Aaron Jones is still good for over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns, but I'd say it's safer to go 11 or 12 than that's even still kind of generous. But
I'd say
18.
I think he can. I think 1,008 is easy. Like 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns is easy for him, and then
say
he has
12,
and he has the potential for 12 in double digits, for 1,200 in double digits. I think that's kind of where he's at about right now. So taking away those like 8 touchdowns, like those make a lot of differences in games. That causes you to play differently. So this team, they're finally going to show the signs, as I said for like 3 times already, the signs that they're struggling and need to rebuild.
Could be for sure. All right, Alec, let's now talk about the Chicago Bears. I believe that all 3 of us have them last place.
Yes, I have them at an abysmal 4-12, but that record does not reflect their skill, in my opinion. Just like Mike said earlier, I think they are going to be a difficult team to beat, but I think in most of those games they are going to be the team that ends up losing, mainly because their only stellar aspect is their defense. They don't have that offense to get them over the hump in those kind of games. I do think that Foles should end up being the starter, and that will help the offense, but I still don't think it'll help it all that much. I do think Matt Nagy still is a great offensive mind, but the running backs that he has, I don't think are perfect for his scheme. Originally, I thought Cohen would be a stud with Matt Nagy. But
He was for 1 year.
Well, yeah, but after like the people caught on, he's just been nothing. I think David Montgomery has the skill, but I think he would do better in more of a ground pound offense instead of all these like short passes and stuff like that. I love Allen Robinson. I think he's a great receiver, but like I said, quarterback's going to be an issue. I think he'll be the only bright spot on that offense. Maybe David Montgomery, but as of right now, I'm just going to say I only think Allen Robinson will be. Obviously, they got Khalil Mack on the other side of the ball, one of the best defensive players in football, even though he did, I don't want to say he regressed last year. He just had like a down year, but a down year for him is still an insane year. Like, it's still great. But other than Khalil Mack, they don't have that star power. They are decent at safety with Eddie Jackson, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't see them winning those big games.
Trace.
Yeah, I have the Bears at 6-10. I think the defense is above average. I think that's safe to put them there. I don't really want to talk about the defense right now. What I really want to talk about is the passing game more than anything. The running game, I think, can be average, maybe a little below average, so I just don't feel it's worth it much talking about. This passing game is really, really where I want to stand. Week 1, I think Mitch Trubisky starting. Familiarity with the offense, it's just going to be easier with a COVID-19 offseason. Eventually, 100% Nick Foles is going to start because Mitch Trubisky is Mitch Trubisky. He's garbage.
Cannot deliver the whole left side of the field.
Yeah, horrible. And looking at these receivers, Allen Robinson, great receiver. Feel bad for him. He needs to leave in free agency, 100%. Number 2 receiver, Anthony Miller, waiting on that breakout. Number 3 receiver, Ted Ginn. Number 4, Riley Ridley, second-year receiver, slow. It's got solid route running and is a good catcher, but he's just slower. And then 5th receiver, Darnell Mooney, rookie. That receiving core is horrible. Tight end group, Jimmy Graham. Sorry, I puked all over my computer there. The number 2, Cole Kmet, not a second-round pick tight end. This passing game is going to be atrocious. Allen Robinson could have 3 trillion targets because of that, but the rest of the passing game, I do not look forward to watching.
I'm sorry, your just little throw up bit was so dumb. I can't stop laughing.
Sorry, I can't help it when I think of. Sorry, see what happens.
Oh
I think
my
of them.
gosh.
I may or may not have done a little bit of that last night. But anyway, I think you made some solid points. I am a little higher on Cole Kmet than you are. And I think if Nick Foles can return to that Eagles Nick Foles, that will bolster them to even a possibility of winning the division again.
But
because
I never thought Nick Foles was that good. Personally, I never did.
Super Bowl MVP.
Great, he had a great 4-game stretch. And then he went to the Jags and lost, and then he got hurt. Gardner Minshew took over, and then he still lost a job when he came back.
He won a Super Bowl.
Great, because he's on a great Eagles team.
He won a Super Bowl.
Good argument, Alec.
So, just like former Bears kicker unlike former Bears kicker Cody Parkey, I'm gonna split the middle again, and I'm gonna go 5-11. I just talked about how the team. I think it's gonna be a competitive team, and they're not gonna die. But I can't get behind any of the quarterbacks at all. Not a fan. We haven't seen Nick Foles be good outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. He had that one stellar year with the Eagles. Then he goes to the Rams. Absolutely terrible. Got beat out by Case Keenum and I think someone else, but I can't remember who it is now. Then he goes back to the Eagles, wins the Super Bowl, gets that Super Bowl MVP. But then he goes to the Jags, gets beat out by Gardner Minshew, and now he's going to come to the Bears. And if he gets beat out by Mitchell Trubisky,
oh boy,
it's bad.
Still won a Super Bowl.
He did. And he's done more in his career than both of our NFL franchises have.
And
I should say, at that rate, Brian Hoyer won a Super Bowl.
Did Brian Hoyer play in the Super Bowl?
He won a Super Bowl.
Did Brian Hoyer beat
did Brian Hoyer win a Super Bowl?
Patriots?
Did he win multiple Super Bowls?
I think he has.
Wow. Okay, Brian Hoyer is better than, let's see, pretty much every quarterback in the NFL. That would be, right? Because he's got multiple Super Bowls.
So, quickly with Nick Foles, I don't understand him at all. Because, if the Eagles had the same coach, over and over, and he worked amazing with that coach, okay, that's fine, right? You got that coach that is you have an amazing connection with that coach. But when he had that amazing year in 2013, they were being coached by Chip Kelly, and then he comes back to the Eagles, and they're getting coached by Doug Peterson, different coaches, and why is it the Eagles? He can't do it anywhere else, and the only team he's ever had success on was Philly in 2 separate years, and they were 2 different coaches. So it's just got to be a Philly thing. What is it? It makes no sense.
I don't know. I just think, he had the one full year where he did really well, and I think that was just everything going right for him. Nothing really went wrong in that season. And then the Super Bowl run, he was just given the opportunity, and the team played really well. The team played above their talent level, and then he played above his talent level as well, which made them unbeatable. And
that team was really good.
Yeah.
So I don't really get it. don't think either of these quarterbacks are the long-term solution for the Chicago Bears.
They will be having a quarterback in the first round of the draft within 2-3 years max.
What if they get Trevor
I think
Lawrence?
this year, I don't think they're not going to be bad enough to have the first overall pick.
No.
But I have
Would
them.
you guys be happy though?
I have them getting. I can't remember. I think I did a mock draft for this upcoming year, and I think I gave them either Trey Lance or I think it was Trey Lance because their pick was a little bit later. But then and Justin Fields went. I think it was 4th overall.
Chase would love that.
No, I think Trey Lance sneaks into has the potential to sneak into the top 8 of picks because the quarterbacks have the extra value, even if it is iffy.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's top 10, but the one thing that's going to be tough is who's picking there. If the Bengals are there, not going to need a quarterback. Unless they want to take Trevor Lawrence, I'm done with that.
Bengals are not going to be last place. In the league.
For my rank, well, I don't want to for my rankings, the only people that I'd have picking ahead of the Bears are the Colts, the Panthers, the Chargers, and the Redskins. And I don't think
who?
The Redskins.
The who?
Oh.
The Washington football
team.
Yo,
all right. I did this before they changed that, so the symbol is still the Redskins.
Yo. You and Chase are high if you think that the Jags are going to be better than the Colts.
Wait, actually, I got to go back and look. Oh, no. I also have... the Jaguars are also picking... They're also picking below the Bears. But they're still going to have a top 10 pick. So I think they're going to get a quarterback.
Better than the Colts.
Yeah. So did you. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Let's go. I have him at 6-10, not 4-12. But
so bad.
He has the Colts at 3-13.
Okay, if you want to...
I love Phillip Rivers, but I've talked about how low I am on him.
If you want to know why that is such a terrible decision to have the Jags over the Colts, go watch our last week's episode on the AFC and NFC South because, oh my goodness, that's terrible. But we've been talking for quite a bit, so let's hurry up, get through this MVP and Rookie of the Year conversation, and then we can get out of here. So, MVP, first off, Alec, your thoughts. Don't tell me it's Matt Stafford because it ain't.
It is Dalvin Cook.
Oh, okay. Nice.
The Minnesota Vikings. I was only between him and Kirk Cousins. There wasn't really anybody else that I was super thrilled about, but I figured Dalvin Cook is going to have another great year. I also think that Kirk Cousins is going to have a good year, but I think the Vikings are going to make a deep playoff push on Dalvin Cook's back.
Yeah, I can't pick anybody other than Dalvin Cook even to talk about because Kirk Cousins won't do enough to be in the MVP conversation. He'll be good, because he'll just get it done, but it won't be enough to carry a team. If anything, Dalvin Cook will carry the team. He's the only name I can really mention. If the Lions made the playoffs, the only name you could mention from there is Stafford, and that still really is just not that realistic either. So Dalvin Cook's the only name I can mention.
I went your favorite, Aaron Rodgers, baby. Let's go, A-Rod. Danica Patrick's husband, I should say.
They broke up, buddy.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm not into the times, and I'm not into the relationship drama stuff.
After Olivia Munn made him stop talking to his family, he just hopped from woman to woman, and I think he's just living single with no family and no friends right now.
That's the life,
honestly. Doesn't even have any friends on the Packers. That's
No,
why I drafted a quarterback.
A lot of us, from what I sound like, Jay Sternberg, the starting tight end, says he has literally no relationship with Aaron Rodgers, which is a little iffy.
I mean, that's the life, honestly. If that's not me in 10 years, 20 years, then...
Living alone with no friends or family?
Yep, that sounds great. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, MVP quarterback before, I think.
Yeah.
And a tremendous talent at his peak. Maybe he gets back there with Reggie Begelton. I hope he can do something nice because he was great in the CFL. Devontae Adams one side, Begelton on the other. I mean, two great receivers. So
is there a receiver who's ever gone from the CFL to produce in the NFL at a decent level? I know there's defensive players that have, and Warren Moon did, obviously.
I think
the biggest one I can think of is Cameron Wake, but that's defense, like you said.
Yeah, and Warren Moon won 5 straight Grey Cups and then ended up being an NFL Hall of Famer.
Imagine playing in a stupid football championship called the Grey Cup. You literally pick the most bland color. Call it the purple cup. Call it the chartreuse cup. Something fun.
It's named after a person.
Well, then,
I don't know
if he's dead, then I'm sorry.
But I would assume it's named after a person. I don't think they would just, you know what? This cup is gray. Let's name it the Grey Cup.
That sounds like something that Canadians would do, honestly.
Well,
wow, that's a shot.
Yeah.
What's your Twitter handle so everyone can throw you hate?
King Alex, I think 6917 or 16917.
Nice.
Something like that. So
Yeah.
make sure to go look them up and throw them a bunch
throw
of
me
hate.
some hate and some follows.
No, not that. All right, let's now talk about Rookie of the Year. Alec, your thoughts?
DeAndre
Terrible.
Swift. Georgia Bulldog. Woof, woof.
Is that it?
It's DeAndre Swift.
Okay. Chase?
Like, I have 3 guys that are all pretty equal for me for the chance to do it. DeAndre Swift is one of them. The other 2...
Pick DeAndre Swift.
You know,
Georgia
like,
Bulldog.
I'll
Woof,
let
woof.
you go first so I can choose the other one.
Okay. What's mine say?
What does it say?
Mine says, DeAndre Swift. Woof, woof.
Darn it. All right.
You got to go Swift now.
No.
Oh, okay.
What a fake Lions fan.
Oof. Couldn't be me. I'm a real
I
Lions
was going
fan.
to say Jeffrey Okudah or Justin Jefferson. It's one of those two. Like,
Do Jefferson, though.
DeAndre Swift was my number one. Just like give me. I like Jeff Okudah a lot, but still giving it to corners like for Rookie of the Year is just it's tough. So might as well go Justin Jefferson. Still giving it to a receiver is also tough, but the guy has all the opportunity in the world to be a day one producer. Really hoping to get done. You know, got a couple stakes of him in fantasy leagues, not just redraft league, also in dynasty currently. Unless me and Alec work out a trade and I don't have him on my roster anymore, that is to be seen. But he was not like just off pure talent. He was just my favorite receiver coming out of the draft because I just thought like he was someone that you could realistically get in the draft and could produce right away day one. Like obviously I like Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb more, but those guys were going top half of the first round. Where I thought Justin Jefferson could get to the end of the first round, where he can go to a more like ready to win team and then dominate because of that.
You're gonna look really silly when DeAndre Swift has 2,000 all-purpose yards and 20 total touchdowns.
He was my number one pick. We guys both talked about him, so I was like, I might as well talk about someone else. So
We didn't even need to talk about him. All you need to know is DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre
Woof,
Swift,
woof.
woof woof. You happy?
Yeah, DeAndre Swift. Woof, woof. Perfect. All right. Well, we know where we stand now with the AFC and the NFC North.
Wait, do you guys have your like Super Bowl and playoffs done too? Do you have that available or no?
I do not.
Darn. Okay. Well, by the way, since we talk about all the divisions, my Super Bowl champion is the Seattle Seahawks.
I think I'd probably have the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl
playing the
as
Ravens.
well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Ravens Seahawks Super Bowl.
Wouldn't that be
Sign
fun?
me up.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my god.
That'd be a fun matchup.
Maybe we just do a playoff episode next then.
All right, I'm all for it.
I'm
We'll
down
go
for
in
that,
depth.
then.
So there's a little bit of a sneak peek for what you guys can expect from me.
All right, perfect. All right, that is it for this episode. We want to thank you guys for coming out and giving us a listen. If you want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us at WNP Sports Pod on Twitter. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. I will put those links in the description as well as the Twitter link. Thank you guys for listening. If you can, give us a like, give us a follow. Make sure to hit the bell, turn on notifications. We will, or YouTube will let you know when all of our new episodes are coming out. If you're listening on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else, please make sure to give us a 5-star rating. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, we're not professionals.